Is there like a buzzer thing out there? Because I feel like I want to run out there and ring a bell. Oh, but they do a thing, right? I'll leave it open, Art, just in case we get more people coming in. Unless you want to run out there and just make everybody come in here. No? No? Are you going to? Oh, there we go. That was the voice I was waiting for. It's actually doing it. Come on, people. Good job. Thank you. No. Well, it's exactly 9:30, so I thought we better get started. We've got a really full session for you here today. So I wanted to start off by welcoming everybody here. Thank you for making it early in the morning. I think some of you may have had a good night last night, so I appreciate the fact that you made it through this morning. So my name is Carla Scada. I am the Senior Director of Registry, which means I look after infrastructure, product development, and the services team. So that's kind of the broad categories, and which basically means I get to work with all of these wonderful people, not all of them, but a lot of these people in this room. So it's my honor to just introduce everybody today, and then I'm going to leave you alone because, as I said, we've got some really exciting things that have happened in the last 6 months or so since we last updated you. And today we're going to be doing something slightly different because we've split the session into the first sort of half an hour will be an update of some of the product development that has happened and some of the projects that we've completed. And then the second half is a showcase, because what we found is that a lot of people have kind of come into these sessions, looked at some of the product updates and gone, well, you know, it's an update to what? So we've kind of gone back to give you a little bit of a showcase on the products. So while I introduce the panel, I'm going to ask them to come up on stage. So the style that we usually do with this session is that all of the speakers will be up on stage. So feel free to interrupt at any stage. Because of the fact that they all work together very closely on a lot of these projects, you might have a question on one particular presentation that someone else that's also been working on the project might be able to assist with. So, which is why we asked them to kind of sit up here and be available to you. So feel free to interrupt at any stage. Otherwise, we're going to race our way through, and we'll have plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions towards the end. So if I can get you guys to come upstairs, I think the next slide is the introduction. Oh, I've got the clicker. Okay. I'm thinking the guys are going to do this, but there we go. Oh, yes, that's the other thing. I wanted to please just remind everybody that another thing that we're doing differently this year is that we are doing showcases on the bean bags behind the services lounge. So please go and have a look and see if there's, again, stuff that you see here today that you're interested in, and you want more in-depth information, or you want to see more about those products. We're doing those showcases. This is the timetable. It's also on your program. So this is a shameless plug for those. So introducing the panel, I some of the guys hadn't actually seen this, and I'm looking at Brad giggling in the background because he referred to the ones that have got the halos as Carla's angels. So you'll know who my favorites are. Not really, but in no particular order. Andre Gelderblom, who is the product manager for the whole registry team, so he has a couple of different products in his portfolio. Peter Blee, I always have to read the titles, training curriculum manager. This is his first time in a long time participating in the session, so welcome. Lily Chi, I always refer to as my favorite UX designer, and it's true. She spends all of her time watching your fingerprints all over the web to make sure that we are making that much more usable for you. Ellie needs no introduction here. She has been part of this community for a really long time, for a very, like 2 decades, Ellie. So she started when she was 10. And then Terry, who also probably needs no introduction because he's also almost as famous and has been doing lots of training in this particular region. Tom Harrison, who I always refer to as King of the Registry, and which he probably hates, but that's okay. George, who's also making a kind of a first-time appearance here, he's our infrastructure services manager. So we thought it was a really important part of the story of how we're actually delivering our products to you. And last but not least, Raphael, who is also known as Raf, and he looks after our information products, which is probably one of the most favorite products that we actually offer. It's kind of something that's a little bit more obvious to some of the other things where we spend a lot of time working in the background to develop products that aren't quite as obvious. So Dash is a really wonderful product, and he's going to be doing that demo on Dash a little bit later. So that's the team. If you guys want to come up, that'll be great. And you can try and figure out who matches what. My cartoon drawing wasn't really me, but yes. So one of the other things that you often see if you've been to one of these sessions before is this particular slide, which talks about all the opportunities you have to give us feedback. Everything that we do is in response to feedback that we get from the community. So not only do you get to participate in the policy development, but you also get to participate in our product development. So we would really welcome you to interact with us. These are just some of the ways that you can interact with us. Specifically today, you'll see this slide scattered through most of the decks. As we move through, please take a shot of this QR code. There's not going to be a lot of time for questions because, we've got things to work through. We'll try and make sure we've got some time right at the end. But please, if there's something that interests you, grab this QR code, send us feedback, and that can be on any one of the products, and we'll be really happy to have a look at that and to experiment some more with that. So I think I've said enough. I'm going to sit down, and then I'm going to invite Pete to come up as our first speaker. And I'm going to go behind this stage so I don't fall off. And welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. I wanted to give an update on the APNIC Academy platform. As Carla mentioned, I'm Peter Blee, product manager of the Academy, and I'm hoping some of you in the room are users of the Academy. I have spoken a little bit yesterday at the newcomer session. Did a bit of a deep dive across the different things that the Academy can provide, including EduRoam, access to technical assistance, the virtual lab platform, and the online courses. If you missed that, you're welcome to look at the recording. And also there's a recording of the demo that I did on the virtual lab platform. Broadly speaking, the APNIC Academy is the umbrella term for all training and development that APNIC provides. On the platform, you can register for face-to-face events, do online courses, and a whole raft of other resources that are there freely available to you. Just from a stats point of view, over the last 7 months from January to July, just some highlights here. There have been close to 2,500 course completions, accumulating to about 7,000 hours of learning. Virtual Labs has had 14,000 launches, 18,500 hours of learning, and we've seen also an increase in the number of accounts created, close to 6,000, and cumulatively we've been sitting over 41,000 accounts on the platform. We have added 2 new virtual labs, one on law and Inception using OpenLI, and also deploying BGP with Cisco iOS. The other functionality we've added to the Academy is the view instructions capability. So previously you'd have to launch a lab to be able to view the lab instructions. Now there's a button available for you to view those instructions prior to launching the lab. So that's available now for all labs on the virtual lab page. We've also we've consolidated a number of labs that have similar unlike topologies. So this doesn't impact you when you're interacting with the platform, but you may see 3 labs, but in fact, it's actually launching 1 lab and passing different lab instructions. So that was a consolidation optimization process that we did. On the left, traditionally over the number of years, we've had standalone labs. That is that you log into the Academy, you have a safe environment where you can break stuff and you can play with the networks that have been switched and routed. But we've now moved to, we've also increased now the features of the virtual lab to include shared labs. And that means that in our classrooms and in training that's provided in face-to-face and also online, allows multiple participants to interact on the same lab topology. So that we have been introducing that more and more into our training, and that's in addition with training labs and other labs that we provide. The Academy has matured over the last 6 or so years. We are doing a modernisation program at the moment. We are looking at loads on the system where we need to take in terms of personalisation and improving discoverability, research and filter. And many other things that are not there at the platform that we want to serve this community. So we are doing a look at how we can improve that from a learning experience point of view, a user experience point of view, to spec up better the platform to respond to the future growth. I'm really excited to talk about this next piece, which is an IPv6 certification program. Behind the scenes, we've been working on a new certification program targeting IPv6. Traditionally, a lot of our training would be at completion, you get a certificate of achievement or certificate of completion. But the certification is exam-based and it's proper certification. So if you're interested in the certification program, it is an alpha trial. We are opening it up free for this year in both Nepal and the Philippines. It is for those that participate in the program and are fortunate to be selected. We're taking groups of 40 through into economies. This opportunity to help us improve and refine the program. So that's why it's a free program, but that's why we're opening up as an alpha trial. It is at an associate level. With the view, if it is successful, we'll build it out to a professional and expert level. And it's delivered in a boot camp style, face-to-face, week-long training program. There is a QR code there, or there is a getcertified.apnic.net. There's information on there, including the syllabus, information about the exam, FAQs, and also how to register your expression of interest. It's quite simple. If you are in Nepal or know people in Nepal, or the Philippines, head to that page, fill out the expression of interest. We'll review the applications that are coming through. And if you're successful, you'll be invited to a boot camp and be part of the trial. That's it for me. Thanks. Over to membership products.
Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. My name is Andre Gelderblom. I'm the product manager for the membership team. Today, I'd like to talk about some updates. So specifically, some new features to MyAPNIC, some security changes that we've got specifically to MyAPNIC as well, and then a couple of new features in Orbit. Um, so one of the newest features we're releasing, it's not quite out yet, but over the next few weeks, you'll start seeing that we've got a download membership document capability now built into MyAPNIC. What this allows you to do is generate signed membership agreements and resource allocation letters, because a lot of people have been asking us over time whether they can get these, mostly for travel reasons. And it's been quite difficult. They have to send in an email to help desk, and then we have to generate it, and it takes like a day for them to get it. So what we've done now is added this functionality straight into MyPinic. So what you'll notice is if you go to MyPinic and you have the right permissions, you'll be able to see there's a new link there that says download documents. And once you go to that section, you'll get a new page. And in this page, you'll be able to see that there's a membership confirmation letter as well as a resource allocation letter that you can download. Clicking on any one of those buttons will allow you to either view it, and this will generate information from your account, and you'll be able to download this document as needed. Another new feature we've got is the renewal quote generation. So this allows people to generate quotes for various financial planning and budgeting reasons. Again, this has been quite cumbersome. You have to email in, ask for it. It takes a couple of days for us to generate it and send it. So now we've added this functionality so that you can go in yourself, go to MyAPNIC and generate these things. So in order to find that, go to MyAPNIC. Again, if you have the right permissions, click on the billing pages. When you get to the billing page, you'll see there's a new section here called renewal quotes. And that select list will allow you to select, I think, 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years. And you can generate quotes into the future for that. This is not available to everyone, and you have to have the right permission set. So some of you may not see it. If you do go there, you'll need to escalate your permissions or speak to someone who has the right permissions. So once you click the download button, we'll generate the quote. It'll download the quote, but it'll also store history of it here. So you've always got access to it for future reference. And then you can view the quote as needed. Another update that we're doing in the next few months is you'll notice that when you try and access MyAPNIC, you'll be challenged with this two-factor or an additional factor that you need to set up. We've introduced this because there's an increasing instances of compromised passwords, not from our system itself. These are from third-party systems, but we detect them in our system. And this is one of the main reasons that we want to ensure that we've got improved security. Now, we've got to balance security specifically when it comes to two-factor with user experience. So what we've done is we've identified the applications that are more security sensitive, and that's MyAPNIC. So the minute you need to go to MyAPNIC, you will be challenged and you will be required to have a two-factor or a second factor at least. At the moment, we've got three different ones that you can set up. One is a generic sort of title factor. Another one is the Google Authenticator, and then we've got the Okta Verifier. With Google Authenticator, you can well, with the first two, really, you can use Microsoft, and any real sort of title generator will work. So they're pretty similar and probably the same thing, really. So you don't have to have Google. It could be any authenticator. And then just on this, we'll be adding more as we go along. So we're testing out SMS. We're testing out the bio-sensitive ones. So you'll notice over time, you'll be able to, there will be more, and you'll be able to go into your settings and change and update as needed if you need to. So some updates to Orbit. It's a minor one, but we think it's going to be quite useful down the line. There's a new little bit of information about how many participants there are in a particular group or in a particular list. This will just sort of give you an indication of how big that community is that you're interacting with. So at the moment, it's just an indicator. What we want to do down the line, perhaps, is make it linked to a page where you can actually explore who the members are that are part of this community. We just got to be careful there with privacy, etc. So we're exploring that a little bit further down the line. But if this is useful and helpful, all your feedback is welcome. We'll keep extending it. Another thing we've added is the report post functionality. So what we found is there's quite a lot of spam in some of these. Some of them have some inappropriate behavior, but there's no way to to sort of report this. So we've built in a new feature that allows you to press this button. It'll be against every single post. When you report it, you'll be able to give a reason why it's inappropriate or for whatever reason. It'll then go to a moderator. The moderator will be able to decide what to do with it. And then if they decide to delete it, it'll show up. I don't know if you've seen Reddit and those kind of places, it'll show up as removed in the list. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's all the products updates from my side. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Good morning. My name is Tom Harrison. I'm the Registry Product Manager at APNIC, and this is the Registry Products Update. So since the last meeting, we've completed the production deployment of our Registry API. We've done some work around RPKI, BPKI updates, and BPKI stands for Business PKI. So these are certificates used for backend communication in the RPKI system. Some things that are nearly ready for release. We have RPKI RSCs, which is about signing arbitrary files using RPKI certificates and verifying those signatures. And also our deployment of IRRD for NRTM. NRTM stands for Near Real-Time Mirroring, and this is a system where a third party can keep a local copy of Whois up to date by getting incremental updates from APNIC. Some things we have for later in the year, we have our Prop 154 policy implementation and also some re-architecture work on our RDAP server. So the Registry API, this is about supporting the scripting and automation of registry operations. So Whois updates, reverse DNS updates, and route management changes. And this ties into the registry area's most important goal, number one, particularly around increasing service transaction automation. This service was in beta as at Apricot earlier in the year. And since that time, we've made a series of refinements, fixed bugs, tightened up the specification, etc. And it's now available in production to all account holders. So if you go into My APNIC, there's a drop down at the top for Resource Manager. And there's a new link at the bottom there for API keys where you can get set up. And there'll be a demo of this service later in the session. The next thing that we've done work on so far this year is RPKI, BPKI updates. So in an RPKI, there are two modes of operation. An account holder can set up an RIR hosted CA, where the RIR looks after CA management, rower creation, etc. Or the account holder can set up a delegated CA where they run specialized RPKI CA software that looks after those functions. Now, when running a delegated CA, that system needs to communicate with APNIC's backend systems, which means it needs to be able to verify the messages that it receives from APNIC and vice versa. And the way that this is handled in RPKI is through an exchange of BPKI trust anchor certificates. And that happens at setup. And then both sides can verify messages after that point. But BPKI certificates are just like any other certificate in that they can expire. And the trust anchor that we were using expired in July. So we needed to see what sort of transition was required for our existing delegated CAs to handle that. So we did some testing with the two main CA implementations, RPKI.NET and Krill. And somewhat surprisingly, it turned out that neither of those was affected by the expiry. So long as the underlying key didn't change and we weren't changing the key, then both of them were quite happy to continue using the expired TA for verification of the messages. However, new TAs, when you were setting up a new a new CA, new delegated CA, a valid TA was needed for Krill. So we still went through the process of renewing that certificate and making it available so that when people were setting up new CAs, that would work correctly. Next, RPKI RSCs. So RSC stands for RPKI signed checklists, and this is about signing arbitrary files using RPKI. So this is useful for use cases like letter of authorizations, where those things are generally handled just on letterhead today. So by signing an RSC, you get a much more secure statement that that's been generated correctly by the actual resource holder. And that again ties into improving service transaction automation per MIG1. All of the work here has actually been done. We're just waiting on some internal administrative checks before we do the deployment. There'll be a signing implementation in my APNIC and then a publicly available web page for verifying those objects. And the other thing we've nearly got done is our Internet Routing Registry daemon deployment. So for NRTM, that system for keeping a local copy of who is up to date, we're currently using a fairly old implementation of the RIPE whois server, and it's been unsupported for a long time. It's quite difficult to work with, making changes is hard, etc. So IRRD is a much newer, much better supported implementation of this protocol, among other things. So yeah, so we're going to do a deployment of that, and then everything will be easier to manage from that point on. And particularly, we'll get new functionality. So there's a updated version of NRTM that's in development at IETF called NRTM v4, and the author of IRRD is involved with that work. So we'd expect to see an implementation of that in future, and then we'll be able to make use of that in our systems. One thing for later on in the year is our Prop 154 policy implementation. This is a policy for supporting delegation, IPv4 delegations smaller than /24, specifically for IXPs. And obviously there are lots of form updates and documentation updates and things like that. But really the main work here is supporting classless inadra.arpa delegation per RFC 2317. And there's an excerpt from that document on this slide that shows what a zone file looks like in that case. And it's just a little bit different. There's a bit of extra work required there compared with normal reverse DNS setup. And that's scheduled to be completed in Q4. And finally, we have some RDAP re-architecture work. Our current RDAP server is very memory intensive because at startup, it pre-generates all the responses and keeps them in memory. We first developed this about 8 years ago, and this wasn't such a problem back then because we only had one instance of the server and it was running on premises. We now have many more instances of RDAP and they're running in the cloud, and memory costs are substantial in the cloud for this service. So we're doing the obvious thing, relying more on disk. There shouldn't be that much effect on speed, and that's scheduled to be completed in Q4. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Rafael Sintra. I work with the information products team at APNIC, and I will provide the update for our team. So let's start with Dash, and I'll start with a question. So how many of you have heard about Dash before? Please raise your hand. How many of you have used Dash before? Okay, that's good. All right. So for those that are not familiar with Dash, Dash is a tool that APNIC provide for APNIC members to monitor their network health. So it allows to track and be alerted about routing issues and also suspicious traffic coming from your network. And it's available at dash.apnic.net. So the first update we have is on the suspicious traffic service. So previously, all the information for suspicious traffic was based on ASNs. So which means that members that don't hold ASNs couldn't have access to this service. So we made change to the data models. So now members that only hold prefix also have access to this feature and can be alerted if there are suspicious traffic originating from their prefixes. The next one is previously, all the aggregation for suspicious traffic was based on days, but most of the time, network operators, they need to know exactly the timestamps of each one of the honeypot hits in order to investigate suspicious traffic. So this was requested by the community, and previously they have to contact our member services, and then our security experts will have to manually generate this data. So was a long process, and now you can go straight into Dash and download a CSV with all the information about individual hits in the HoneyNet project. So you can filter, as you can see in the dialog, by time range, and you can also filter by individual prefix if you want, or you can download for all your prefixes. We also have small improvements for the Dash alerts. The first one is the notification contact selection for SMS and WhatsApp channels in Dash alerts. So previously, you only could select contacts if you select the email option. But now with SMS and WhatsApp for contacts as well, it means that if you select a contact and that contact changes their mobile phone later, Dash will automatically use the new mobile phone in the next time a notification is sent to that contact. We also had improvements to the notification texts. This was also based on feedback from the community. So now we have more descriptive and detailed information, specifically in the context of prefix and number of hits in the honeypots. So yeah, so we made heaps of improvements in the text, and we are also working in further improvements for the routing status text as well. So the biggest update we had in the last 6 months in Dash was the inclusion of a new service. So we include the manners readiness scores for our members in Dash now. So this is a collaboration with Manners. So Manners is mutually agreed norms for routing security, and it's supported by the Global Cyber Alliance. So basically, the Manners score for your network, it tells you how much conformant your network is with routing security best practices. So with this new feature, we are really trying to encourage our members to look after the routing security in their networks and to join their programs. So the program is free, and it can help you to implement routing security best practices in your network and keep it safe. So this is how the feature looks like. So on the top, we talk about what is manners, what manners readiness means, and we also have a section how to join the manners program. Finally, we have each one of the manners readiness score. So it has 5 different categories, as you can see, and at the end, we have the breakdown of each one of the metrics that it's used to calculate the readiness scores. So each one of these metrics, if you click it, you have a detailed information how these metric is calculated. And in the section about what is Manners readiness, we also have a link to Manners that has like a paper that has very technical details about how the measurements are made. So now moving to Rex. So Rex is APNIC Resource Explorer. So it's available to all the internet community. It has statistics, measurements, lots of information about delegations, and it's available at rex.apnic.net. So 1 year ago, we released the RAR filtering in Rex, specifically for the statistics and delegations page. So as soon as we release the RAR filtering, we receive requests to also implement NIR filtering. So we implemented these in the last 3 months. And you can see on the dialog on the top, and this is specifically where the filter is. So when you click it, now you have the option to filter the data by each one of the NIRs as well. So we hope that you find it useful. So now for some upcoming work. So specifically in Dash, we are increasing the BGP coverage. So right now in Dash, we use one BGP collector in Singapore. So what that means is that if there is an incident happening in another part of the globe that is not propagating to Singapore, we don't detect it. So we will be increasing the BGP coverage using more collectors around the world, which means that we will increase the coverage for our members. So they will be notified if there are problems with their routing in other parts of the world as well. We are also working on bogon service. So we want our members to know if they are originating or propagating bogons from their network. And finally, we are also working in an open service vulnerability, but this is for the next year. For those interested in Dash, there will be, as Carla mentioned before, live demo. This will be at lunchtime at 1:30, and it's behind the APNIC lounges. I hope to see you there. And that's all. Thank you.
That was a bit ambitious getting up on stage that way. So that's any questions before we move on to the product showcases on some of the updates. Is there anyone that has any questions about some of the presentations? Yeah, please.
Hi, I basically want to ask, about the Dash the thing. Is it only for APNIC members, or for us, like in Indonesia, we are from IDNIC, are we able to use that as well?
I can answer that question. Not yet, but we've actually just started discussions about that particular challenge, and we have already been requested by the NIRs to allow access to this product from their members. So watch this space. Anyone? Okay, so are we ready with the next? There should be another. Okay, I'm seeing nods. So the next section we're going to be doing, as I said earlier, is the product showcase. And so this is going to be a bit more of a deep dive, not just into the product updates, but some of the actual products and services that we offer at APNIC. So again, we'll kind of let the panel run through it. I blame the wind for this voice. So we'll let the panel run through it. And again, at any stage, please feel free to come to the microphone, or if you're online, raise a question and we'll address it straight away, or save your questions for the end. So without further ado, training delivery. Terry. Pass you the baton.
Thank you, Carla. So just by way of introduction, I'm Terry Sweetser. I'm one of the training delivery managers at APNIC. There are two. You can see Shane is in the audience. Shane looks after Southeast Asia and East Asia. I look after South Asia and Oceania. And of course, I get the gig to talk today because Oceania, New Zealand, and so on. So quickly, we did this talk yesterday, but I'm going to be changing the narrative. You'll probably notice I use pictures a lot instead of actually putting words up. So I tend to talk according to the audience as opposed to whatever I've got sitting in front of me in the slide deck. But we do have a series of topics that APNIC Academy training does actually teach on all the time. You'll find that these topics, as well as being defined in our activity plan, they're very much centric around internet operations. And given that APNIC is obviously a regional internet registry and our main service is registry, our teaching and our coaching, our mentoring work is about getting our membership and the community to make the best possible use of those resources. So it's an important part of what we do, in the academy work. And of course, if you're not aware, we do have two value streams in APNIC. We've heard very much from registry today, but The other value stream is development, and that's all about building capacity, increasing learning, and improving things like RPKI uptake and IPv6 uptake in our communities, across the 56 different economies we deal with. So pictures, I did warn you about the pictures. So yes, we do a lot of training online. And these are some of our Zoomies. You can see a few of us there. Also some of our community trainers as well. So there are very regular events where we're online. We use Zoom obviously extensively, and you could say that we got thrust into that in 2021 thanks to a small single-celled organism, or what was it called, a virus? What was it, COVID-19? Everyone remember that now? It's still a little while ago. But I think the memes are pretty true. Your 2021 digital transformation agenda, who was your driver? Your driver was COVID-19. So yes, we all went online and did things online. And we've kept that. We do find that Zoom is very cost effective, and it's also a way of cutting across many different issues with travel and so on that were occurring back then and still occur now. Awal is one of our trainers. You'll find that we have a very diverse training team. There's a couple of guys, we call them skippies, a few guys from Australia, but then we've got people from Southeast Asia, and we've also got people from South Asia as well. Looking for more people, East Asia maybe at some stage, possibly. Awal's from Bangladesh. He's a real pleasure to work with. He has a real passion for imparting information and giving people, real knowledge, real workable knowledge. And like most of us in the training team, real world experience, decades of experience running networks as well. Dave's done something interesting this year. We now have a new piece of curriculum called Network Automation. And that's a really interesting offering. It's the ability to scale up changes and checks and monitoring on larger networks with minimal manpower. So that's a real value add. And I would encourage you, if you've got any interest in actually programming up networks and making things happen automatically, come and see us about joining one of our network automation workshops. In the yellow t-shirt from Pakistan is Imtiaz, another superstar. This chap's got a great track record of working not only in South Asia, but also in the Middle East. So when we picked him up as a trainer, it's a big bonus. Lots of experience with deploying MPLS and big networks. One of the hallmarks of getting people from South Asia is you get to talk to them about deploying networks at scale. I'm pretty proud I did a network of 50,000 IPv6 addresses in my career, or blah, blah, blah. Then I talked to one of these guys from India, and they talk about 960 million digital mobile handsets, and I go, that's big. So yeah, it can be very interesting to talk to people from the region about the scale that they achieve. Very different to what we see in Australia. Jamie, who is one of our security specialists. You'll know Jamie, and you'll know Adley. They've been with APNIC now for several years, 3 years. What is it? Jamie's 6 years, Adley's 10 years or something. But we do have access in training delivery to Jamie and Adley to actually teach security. And I think it's, apart from being a topic, we can see from products that we've talked about today that security is a big issue, and keeping things secure at the application layer, keeping things secure at layer 3, i.e. routing security, is very important to our membership and to the community in general. And for those of you who had the privilege of listening to Jeff yesterday on his keynote, you'll see that there are still issues that need to be resolved around the security of layer 3 and internet routing in general as well. Makito is a very interesting chap. He is from Cambodia and various other places. He has lived in different parts of Southeast Asia in his lifetime. I think he's one of our most recent hires in the training team. And he's also had the privilege of doing something that we normally don't do. He has done a gig where he has attended and he has conducted it in Mandarin. Normally we conduct training in English, but because we have someone who is I think Makito is quadlingual, so English, Mandarin, Khmer, and something else. So yeah, having someone who can do that in multiple languages is absolutely amazing. And you can see him here. I think this is either Lao or somewhere. Yeah. Shane, again, another superstar from Southeast Asia, Philippines, long career in network engineering. More importantly, very long career with APNIC. So not only has Shane been teaching us in the community, she's also been working on systems and so on at APNIC and elsewhere. Again, a strong background in the RE as well. And obviously, this is a quick pick from PHNOG. So I think those of you who do attend PHNOG, you'll know this is a very active community, and we have lots of friends there in the Philippines, mainly thanks to Shane. Oh, there's this bloke. He goes to training. He tells these ridiculous stories about breaking things really badly, and then learning very quickly how to fix them, and then he teaches that. So you'll get to see him on training runs now and then as well. Zubair, again, another one of our superstars from Bangladesh. Zubair is another recent hire. Huge amounts of experience with large-scale networks. Again, that South Asian context and having huge networks to work with, because of the population base, means that we get people with some very unique skill sets and very unique problems that they've solved. And having them teach that is amazing as well. We have community trainers. You've probably heard we have retained community trainers and we have volunteer community trainers. But I've picked up two of our more interesting community trainers here. On the left, we have Liesl, which I believe Liesl is sadly going to downgrade to volunteer, Shane, isn't she? Yeah, that's unfortunate. And on the right, we have Kazi Tamid, who is based just outside of Dakar. These guys give us around 5 days of their life each month to work in their respective communities and adjacent as well. And it's awesome to have that context because they're normally working in the industry right beside the people they're teaching as well. And that's a huge bonus for us. Kazi being in Dakar means he has got direct experience on the ground intelligence for us for what's happening in Bangladesh as well. We are very sorry to see what's happened there, and we're hoping things improve. But unfortunately, we have suspended training operations in Bangladesh until such things settle down. But Kazi's interesting. I thought, well, we've got to give you something to do. So I said, let's go get some ripe Atlas probes. I think he ran Bangladesh out of probes almost immediately once he was given that job. I'm being hurried up. Okay, special guests. You'll recognize some of these guys. One of them likes to sit down the back of our room and do AV work at the conferences, but he also is responsible for running reverse DNS. So I didn't even know what you were running as the background and all that, until I got you to talk to someone from Internet NZ. But apparently, Arth looks after one of the largest DNSSEC networks on the planet. It's called our reverse DNS, so that was very impressive. And you can see this chap on the left here. He's a bit of an interloper at PHNOG on occasion as well. But we also have the privilege of having him on our board and representing you as the community as well. So he does get to talk to you as well in these events. And of course, attendees. We wouldn't be doing this unless people turned up and wanted to learn. And again, the pictures tell a big story, especially about diversity and of course, engagement. You can see her on the right in the middle there is Sonia Edwards. She is at this conference. She's a returning fellow. She's a fellow APNIC. She's had several other fellowships and she's a retained community trainer. So she is these days the poster child for getting engaged and becoming part of the community and moving into the ecosystem and contributing back in a big way. And Sonia, of course, one of her big contributions at the moment is actually helping us start PNG NOG. So that's a brand new NOG running in PNG very shortly. Okay, stats, I'll race through. We dashboard everything, we track everything. Don't worry, we'll never miss anyone because we've got a dashboard that tells us where the holes are. And of course, one of our leading metrics is our delivery hours. Now, I took this shot about 3 weeks ago. We're now up to around 1,600 delivery hours. Our metric is actually 1,200. Now, we hit the 1,200 metric within 7 months of the 12-month period. So yeah, we probably work too hard to kill the metrics. But as I said in the presentation the other day, the job of middle management is to do the KPIs, and boy, do we do them over. Yes. So again, where we're spreading out on various topics, we very even spread, but you can see there we're trying very hard to do network security and network automation, and where we train. Of course, Southeast Asia is very, very popular in the statistics, mainly because Shane is way more organized than I am, and she's very popular, and people keep asking her to do things. So well done, Shane. And thank you very much. We were going to do an Academy Live demo, but maybe we'll do it. We'll come back to it when we have time. Okay, cool. And I think I'll have to send over to Andre again. Thank you.
All right. I will go a little bit faster than normal just to catch up on a bit of time. So I'd like to talk a little bit about shaping the internet and staying informed with APNIC. This is mostly around the products and the services that help empower you to, shape the internet and stay informed. Let me just make sure I get the right. Yep. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that a lot of you in this room and a lot of the people at the conference already contribute a lot to our policies, to getting involved in voting and elections, and your contribution really drives a lot of the key decisions and helps create an open, stable, and secure internet. So I definitely want to acknowledge that a lot of this information I'm going to show you is here to sort of empower the new people that may not know about some of these products and services that we offer, and to give you sort of more impactful or more impact on your contribution. So specifically what I'd like to talk about is our policies, the voting system that we have, our mailing list, and the blog. So shaping the internet. Your contribution directly contributes to building a global, open, stable, and secure internet. And one of the ways you can do this is participate in our policies. So especially for the newcomers, I think an important thing to understand is that anyone can participate. A lot of people think there's this big barrier, but it's open to everyone, and you don't have to be a member. You could just be someone basically walking off the street. So that's really important. I see there's a lot of students here from a lot of the universities, and I'm encouraging them to get involved as well. So it can be a little bit complicated and a little bit daunting. So what I advise is go to the APNIC policy page. There's a lot of information on our website. We've got some really good content that'll actually help you get started and surely but slowly sort of hold your hand through it. One of the best places you can go also, just to kind of look around and get a feel of it, is you can go to Orbit, and Orbit is our sort of archive for the mailing list, and a lot of the policy conversations happen on Orbit. So sign up to a policy SIG, and what will happen then is you'll get the notifications and you'll see the discussions and the conversations happening around each and every one of these policies. Now, you can also go and look at the history of all these policies. You can browse all of this information. You don't have to sign up. You just go there, you have a look, and you read all about it, and you can research and understand what's going on. And if you really want to, you can start contributing. You can sign up and start getting involved and, make your voice heard a little bit. So please, this is open, free, and available, and there's no barriers to it. And a lot of the community are very encouraging for those newbies, and they will help you through. Sometimes they can get a bit heated, but I think it's passion rather than malice in any way. Oh, yeah. Also, we have the policy development process course on the Academy. It's an awesome one. It's been there for a long time. I took it myself just to make sure I understood the whole thing. So thank you, Peter. And yeah, it's a great place for anyone. Even if you are experienced, this is still a very good course to go and have under your belt. For those who are a little bit more experienced, I looked at the stats, and we've got this policy change log. And what it allows you to do is sort of get a diff and see the change for a particular policy over time. And I noticed that a lot of people are not actually visiting this. In the last 3 months, we probably had 35 users going to visit this. So I wanted to highlight for those people that are already involved, this does exist. It's a great little tool, and it helps you keep track of what all the changes are if you ever do need to do it, ever do need to keep track of it. And then I just want to let you know about some potential features. Really important to understand that these are potential. We're investigating ways to improve the archive, ways for you to be able to find the information in the archive, extract it and use it and let it be useful. And one of the things we're looking at is training an AI model, maybe fine-tuning something that'll be able to digest all the information inside the policy archives, digest the policy pages on the website, and also understand the diffs. And then what you'll be able to do is generate reports, generate concise executive reports of all the information there, as well as the conversations that have been happening, and maybe even interact. You might be able to ask it questions, etc. So this is new for us. AI in general is new. So this is something we might explore perhaps next year and the year after, and may or may not come to light. It depends on the community feedback, the cost, and the involvement from the community itself. So something else I'd like to let everyone know about is we do elections and voting. And so this is another way for you to shape the internet. You can get involved in electing people, you can get involved in nominating new candidates, or you can become a leader yourself and put yourself up for election. We have a lot of different types of elections. At the moment, we've got the NRO number NC Council, NRO number council NC elections, as well as various policy chairs at the moment. So anyone can participate. Everyone that is an attendee here can participate in these elections. You can go to My APNIC. If you don't have a login, just sign up and get one. It's free. There's no barriers. And you'll be able to go to the voting page and you'll see all of these there and you'll be able to vote. We'll tell you whether you are eligible or not. So anyone who attends a conference is eligible to vote. So I do encourage anyone who hasn't done this before to please go there. I've looked at the stats. They're pretty low. Please go. So staying informed. So you've now sort of seen how you can contribute and get involved. So one of the ways you can stay informed with us is we have an awesome blog. It's been there for a long time. It's very valuable. It's an absolute treasure trove of information. And we also have Orbit, the archive, which I've mentioned before. So our blog is full of articles that are sort of industry specific, and they're from experts. They're not just from ourselves. We're also looking for people that would like to contribute. Reach out to our comms team. We're looking for authors. Even if you're not an expert, but you've got some interesting information, we're really keen to hear from you and ask that you contribute. And then we have Orbit. As I mentioned before, it's a treasure trove of historical information, and it's open and free. So go there. There's lots of information you can look at. You can discover what the history of the internet is if that interests you. There's policies. There's a lot of different mailing lists. Some of them are locked. You can subscribe and join them, and others are open. You can have a look anytime you want. So I encourage everyone to please get involved. For those who are already doing it, these are the tools that I'm hoping help you and improve the way you can get involved. And please reach out to me if you've got any good ideas or improvements that you'd like. I'm happy to hear them. And for the newbies, yep, now you know, no excuses. Thank you very much.
All right. Good morning. My name's George Salisbury, and I'm part of the infrastructure services team at APNIC, and I'll be talking today about what happens when you send a Whois update to us, and we'll go through the systems behind the scenes it goes through, and we'll talk about the Internet Routing Registry daemon that Tom mentioned that we're currently working on to migrate to. All right, so firstly, my team. So we, at the conferences here, we run the webcast here. There's a couple of us at the back there. But our day jobs is operating the systems that APNIC products and services run on. And some of that, what that involves is there. So the Whois update flow, so you can think of it as three parts. One where a member creates, modifies, deletes an object, and then when it's processed by the systems in APNIC, and finally as it propagates out to our Whois and RDAP services where you can query it from. So the first part, submitting the update. So as of about a week ago, we now have three ways you can do that. So first via MyAPNIC and an email, which we've had for a long time, but now also via the registry API. And so this slide shows how the update flows through. So if it's from MyAPNIC, it goes to the MyAPNIC server there and ends up on the WHOIS primary. And if you're using the registry API, it'll go via some Kubernetes pods, and an email will go via our mail servers. And it all ends up on the WHOIS primary and is stored in the database there. And that's the source of truth for our APNIC WHOIS data. And then there's some processing steps. So from that same WHOIS primary, we have this new IRRD server, which we're working on to migrate to. And yeah, so the updates reaches that server after about 15 seconds. It checks every 15 seconds for updates. And then once it's there, any NRTM clients of it will be able to get that update as well. So those include internal clients such as Dash and external ones like ISPs or internet exchanges or other enterprise members might have configured. And if that's something that might interest you, would help you in your operations, you can talk to the member services team and they'll be happy to configure that with you. And there's also a daily task that runs to push those updates out in a bulk format to our ftp.apnic.net site, where you can go and download those in bulk form. And then lastly, so this slide shows how those updates propagate out to our query services in rdap.apnic.net and whois.apnic.net. And so from that IRRD server, we have another WHOIS server, which is also an NRTM client. And so once the updates reach that, they propagate out via database replication to both our Google Cloud regions, which run our RDAP service, and virtual machines around the world, which run our whois.apnic.net service. And then it's available to query, and I've showed some example commands there you could use. And yeah, we recommend you use RDAP. It'll provide you with a well-structured JSON response, and also if the object you're querying is held in another RIR, that's the source of truth, then it'll seamlessly redirect you to that RIR and you'll get the response from there. So yeah, use RDAP if you can. All right, and that concludes mine, and I'll hand over to Lily. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very informative. I know sitting is really hard, isn't it? Everyone, let's stand up. Take your left hand, grab a hold of your right wrist, and pull towards the side. And then come to the center. Inhale, change wrists, pull towards the other side. Feel the stretch through your obliques. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Have a seat back down. Okay, so I'm here to walk you through some contact management how-tos. This is a pretty big change we have made to clean up our data. So for some of you, this might be quite an unpleasant experience because you're managing lots of different contacts, you have many accounts, but this is all for the sake of the security. So what is a user versus a contact? Now, an authenticated user is anyone out in the world who has created an APNIC login. You don't necessarily have to be a member. You don't have to have any kind of IP resources. You just have a login. And through this login, you have basic access for any MyAPNIC features that you want to have for your individual use. A contact, however, has an additional layer on top of that. So not only do you have a login, you also have member accounts attached to your login. So many scenarios here. The first one is you have a person and one login and many accounts attached to that login. So it's a one-to-many relationship between the login and the contact. So what you'll see here is when you log into My APNIC, you have a drop-down menu that allows you to switch between all the member accounts that you manage. Another scenario is you will have a login created for each of your accounts. So this is quite common. If you want to manage each company individually with that specific company email, you can do that. Or you can have a mix of logins and accounts. So sometimes you might have one email attached to one company and another email attached to a few other companies. And the key here is all of this is permissible. Whichever one is most convenient for you to manage all of your accounts. But the key here is you absolutely do have to have a login before you can manage any member accounts. So we call the logins or the contacts that do not have logins unauthenticated contacts because they're able to modify and action on member accounts without proper authentication. So how do you check for them? Well, here you can see a screen recording of the MyAPNIC interface. You would simply go to manage your contacts and you will see a screen with a banner that shows you, hey, contact management is changing. Please make sure all your contacts are in order before this date. And here you can see all the unauthenticated ones. So these contacts do not have logins, but they can still get in touch with help desk and we'll still help them. But we will be deprecating these very soon. You can easily see what the duplicates are. They're highlighted in red. And you can also quickly see, okay, which ones are the ones with logins, which ones do not. So how would you resolve these unauthenticated contacts? Well, technically, you have two choices. So when you click on resolve, you'll be asked to choose whether you want to just simply remove them or do you want to create new logins for these contacts that do not have logins in order to resolve them. So we also have a bulk remove feature where you can simply send invites to all of them together, or you can send them individually. You can also delete them if you wish to do that. So in this case, you'll see the bulk resolve will show two contacts here, post security threats. You can delete both, or you can invite one, delete the other, and then that will basically be done for you in a single click, and then you get the confirmation message. How would you bulk remove? Again, it's pretty simple. You just look at your duplicates, see which ones have the same name and email, and then you would click on remove to get rid of the duplicates. How would you add a new contact as a corporate contact now? So the flow is still pretty much the same. You simply go to invite, but in this case, you'll be asked to choose their contact type and permission straight away. So in this case, I'm using a dummy username, Spider-Man, to protect, we don't want to use any real people's names. You can include a personalized message. So say, hey, I'm inviting you to join my member account to help me manage resources on this account or whatever it is that you want to say. And you can select what type of contact you want them to be. You can also configure specific permissions if you feel like the default permission set under the technical contact selection or the billing contact selection do not exactly fit your needs. So you can get very granular, but you absolutely have to select a contact type. By default, corporate contacts have all the permissions, so they can do everything on this account. No issues there. How would you nominate a new contact as a billing or a technical contact? So obviously, if you're not a corporate contact, you do not have the permission to manage contacts as much as a corporate contact can. So if you want to add someone new to this member account, you're nominating them so that your corporate contact can approve the request. So in this case, again, similar form, except you're not adding this person directly. You're adding information that this person has, including their contact type. And then once you click on nominate, the request will get sent to the corporate contact to approve. Once they're approved, then it will be added to your member account. To nominate a new corporate contact, it's a little bit more of a hurdle that you have to jump through. So because corporate contacts are authorized contacts that literally have complete control over the member account, we do require that nominating a corporate contact or adding a new corporate contact for you to have the director or duly authorized company officer's authorization. So usually this person would be someone like the CEO or maybe the CTO, managing director, someone with high authority who can pretty much guarantee and say, oh, okay, this is a legitimate request, and then this will be reviewed. Once it gets reviewed and it passes approval, then this will be the new corporate contact on this member account. So what happens for the person being invited? Well, they will get an email from Okta, which is our authentication service. And then as soon as they click on the link that says activate Okta account, they will be taken to set up their security methods. So earlier, Andre talked about multi-factor authentication. Once they've set up their password, they will be taken to set up their multi-factor to ensure that they have a very secure login. And then once that's done, they will be taken to their MyPNIC and personal profile. So personal profile and APNIC login have a very tightly coupled relationship. Every person who has a login will have their own personal profile. And this means that only this person who owns the login owns their information. If you're viewing and editing a personal profile, you can really see all of the information this person has chosen to share with you on their profile. However, you do not have the ability to change any information. So if you remember in the previous contact management interface, the corporate contact was able to literally modify anyone's personal fields. So you can no longer do that. Only you can change your own personal profile information. And so you can choose what to display, what not to display, and these fields will only be owned by the proper owner of the APNIC login. So as a corporate contact, what can you change now? Well, you are only allowed to change what is relevant in terms of managing your account. So here you can see it's the same permission set as you would see in the invite flow, but in the manage button, you will be able to modify the permissions this contact has at any point in time. So you can easily say, hey, I no longer want this person to be able to modify my whois private objects. You can turn that permission off. If you'd like to remove a contact for technical and billing, again, because you're not a corporate contact, you will have to send in a request. So instead of just a remove, you'll be able to go request to remove. You can review the info and make sure it is the right person. And for example, here you can see the person that's flagged as you, and then you can also see all the unauthenticated ones. So if you want to just prompt your corporate contact and say, hey, please bulk remove these unauthenticated contacts, you can do that in bulk. So that's all really quick and easy to do. You don't have to individually click every single one of them. And for corporate contacts, you can pretty much delete a person straight away. So there is no approval process. As a corporate contact, you have full control over the member account. Simply click on the little trash bin icon, confirm your choice, making sure you're not making a mistake, and that person will be removed from the account. So many changes. Why are we making all these changes? Again, number one is we really want clear user identification because right now we don't really know who's who. We're really relying on email to say, oh, we think you are this person who owns this email, but we don't really know for sure. And that comes from the history, right? So traditionally in the 1990s when APNIC started, we started from a notebook and a pen just writing down who had IP addresses. That turned into an Excel spreadsheet. That turned into an SQL database. And now we have logins, we have all these layers of authentication simply because the internet has grown. And now we have so many member accounts. We really want to make sure the permission settings for each user is set very clearly, and we know exactly who has access to what in any given time. And third of all, it's for your own data accuracy. So we want to make sure that we eliminate any potential hazards that we can. We want to make sure the member contact database is very secure. And also, in doing that, we want to make sure we provide an easy tool for members to manage this on their own time. And we have a whole year before we forcibly remove all the unauthenticated contacts. So in the meantime, please tell all your friends to go log into My APNIC and remove the duplicates if they have any, and resolve your unauthenticated contacts. So if you have any feedback about any of the things we talked about, if you have any questions, Andre will be running some product demos at the beanbag chairs. I will also be around in the feedback desk. So please come through and have a chat to me. Welcome any feedback, any suggestions or questions. And you can also do it through the QR code. We have a little form on the website. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I realize you've been sitting for a while, but my name is Ellie Tafai, and I'm going to talk to you about referral applications and how they can benefit you as a member and to your company. So some of the frequently asked questions we receive through help desk is help desk queries such as about creating rowers and route objects, queries around contacts and how to keep them up to date. But one of the frequently asked questions we get is how I can get more IP addresses. So I want to just touch on that. So since the last 5 years, the maximum amount of IP addresses that a member can receive is a /23. And if you are a service provider, realistically, with a growing customer base, this is not a lot of IP addresses, and it's not enough to sustain your growth. So we have a number of mechanisms in place. While we understand IPv6 is the ultimate solution, we do see that members have a genuine need for additional IPv4 address space. And we have a number of policies in place in order for members to receive more IPv4 address space. So some of these are via transfers, and we have a number of IPv4 transfer services like pre-approval, where you can get a needs-based assessment done before you find a source of unused IPv4 address space. And this in turn allows you to speed up the transfer process. We do have also a transfer listing service within My APNIC. So members who have a surplus of IPv4 addresses that they no longer use, this service allows them to publish them within My APNIC, and in turn for other members to get in contact with them. We also have a transfers mailing list, which members can get in contact with other people within the community. And we have a number of registered IPv4 registered brokers. So these are brokers who have signed membership agreements with us and have agreed to abide by the policy process. So, based on feedback that we have received from members, and they've shared this feedback with us, there can be a number of challenges about processing transfers. So some of these challenges is actually finding a reliable source of IPv4 transfers whom they can trust, along with a high upfront cost. So you have to look at, do you want to invest more in IPv4, or do you want to migrate to and invest more in IPv6? And lastly, about the quality of IPv4 address space received via the transfer process. As some of these IPv4 address space have been abused and blacklisted and face geolocation issues. Hence, when members have completed the transfer and are trying to use the IPv4 address space that has been transferred within their networks, they are facing operational issues because of the quality. So if you are a service provider and you're looking at considering an alternate to transfers, you can go through what we call a referral application process. As an APNIC member, you have customers who need IPv4 based on the solutions that you're offering to them. And what you can do is you can refer these types of customers to APNIC. You can help them go through and submit the application process. And once it has been approved, what we will do is then we will delegate the IPv4 address space to your customers under their member account. And what you can help them to do as the member, you can help them then in turn manage those resources. So to go through the referral process, the first thing you will need to do is you will need access to refer your customers via My APNIC. And this is just an example as a member, what you will see in your dashboard and how you can actually go and refer your customers. So we have actually streamlined this process to make it as easy as possible. We know who you are because we have your details. So therefore, we pre-fill this form with your details. What you will need to do is actually provide the contact details for your customer within this form. And if you actually want to help manage their account, then you will need to add yourself as a secondary contact. Once the request is approved, then we will then send you an email with the details containing details of the actual resources they have been delegated. So some of the benefits of this process is attracting new customers without actually utilizing your own IPv4 address space. If you only have a /23, then you most likely don't have enough IPv4 address space to delegate to your customer anyway. But this in turn allows you to strengthen your customer relations. As some of you may have customers who are government and enterprise customers, and realistically, these types of customers don't have a good understanding about the APNIC policy process. So you can help them out as much as possible. And at the same time, you can actually free up some of your IPv4 address space for your own infrastructure to allow your own existing organization to further for network growth. Also by referring them to APNIC, they in turn get their own portable blocks. And this is actually a cost-effective solution and an alternate to transfer, as the market can be volatile, and hence by you applying for IPv4 address space on their behalf, they are actually paying the standard registry fee for IPv4 address space. Some long-term benefits include things like more sustainable resource management. And this is an option recently. What happened is we recently completed the historical resource transition project. And as a result of this project, we managed to recover enough IPv4 address space to sustain us for another around 4 to 5 years. And this is based primarily on the current delegation trend. And in turn, the advantage of this is this also allows you to sustain growth within your organization and improve your customer retention rate. By getting more IPs, you can provide them with a more robust and intimate solution with multiple uplinks and so on. So this in turn gives you a strategic partnership with APNIC, but it also, it positions you for continued growth. And in a changing internet landscape, this is also very important. So for example, something that's going to happen next year is there are going to be some fee changes. So if you are a member with that contains multiple ASNs under your account, what you will find next year is if you have more than 2 ASNs, then there'll be additional fee. However, with this process, you can refer your customers to receive IPv4 address space, but also ASN numbers at the same time. So therefore, you don't have to bear the additional cost of additional ASNs under your account, and therefore it is more cost-effective solution. This is not something that's new, but we find that members are not necessarily aware of that they can go through this referral process. We actually have more than 170 members who have actually used the referral application process. And most of their customers are still connected to them. So it's been proved that it is a successful model. So I just want to end it there and say, if you have any questions at all, I'll be, myself and my colleagues will be at the APNIC Lounge. Feel free and come to us and reach out and talk anytime. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll talk today in the showcase for Dash about how you can create alerts for detecting potential BGP hijacks and also for detecting BGP visibility issues. So I won't talk again about Dash, but it's available to all APNIC members at dash.apnic.net. And so when you are creating Dash alerts for routing status, you need to set the filter and triggers. So for filter, you can filter by prefix or origin AS. And for trigger, you have 2 options. You have ROA and ROA object alignment, or you can also trigger by BGP status. And BGP status is what we will be using for creating alerts for BGP hijacks and routing visibility issues. So this is the dialog used to create an alert with the trigger BGP status. So the options are, if my BGP announcement if the BGP announcement status is that that route exists or that route doesn't exist, and then I have an additional filter for selecting the origin AS for the route. So let's look at the first use case. There is the potential BGP hijacks. So my example today is, let's say that you have prefix delegate to you, and you have also an ASN delegate to you. So I want to make sure that all my prefix are being originated by my ASN. So if someone announces a BGP route that is originated by ASN that's not delegated to me, it could be a BGP hijack, and I want to be alerted straight away. So what I'll do is I'll select as the filter all prefix delegate to my account. And as the trigger, I will select BGP status. And say I want this alert to trigger when a route exists for any origin AS not delegated to my account. So let's see how we can do this. So I'll go to routing status alert. I click on new alert, and then on the prefix, I will select all prefix delegate to my account. Then I select the BGP status and I say route exists. And then I select the second option, any AS not delegated to my account. Then I select how I want to be notified. In this case, we will just select to my email. I click next. I define a name for my alert, and that's it. And the alert is created. So anytime that Dash detects BGP announcements for my prefix for origin AS that is not delegated to me, I'll get an email in my inbox. The second use case I want to talk about is about BGP visibility issues. So let's say we have that very important route that I want to make sure that it's always visible in BGP. So how can I create an alert to notify me if that route disappears from the BGP? So the way I do it, and the use case that I use here today is, in my filter, I will select a specific prefix, that is the route prefix. In the trigger, I will select BGP status, and I'll select the option route doesn't exist, and then I'll select the AS that should always be originating that prefix. So let's see how I can create this. So I go to routing status alerts. Then I select new alert. Then I'll select the prefix for the route. In this case, I want to exec only. I'll select the prefix. I click next. Then I'll select BGP status. Then I say route doesn't exist. And then I'll select the origin AS. I'll enter the AS. Click next. Again, I will just select that I want to be notified by email in this case. I set the name for my alert. And that's it. And the alert is created. And just reminding that we support 5 options to notifications. So email, SMS, Slack, WhatsApp, and webhooks. And if you have any feedback on Dash alerts or anything related to it, please reach to us. Thank you.
I said I wasn't going to do it again. So we are actually at time, but Tom has prepared a demo for the API. So those of you who would like to stay, it is a break time anyway. Can you just kind of give me a wave? Otherwise, Tom will be doing this tomorrow lunchtime, is it? 11 o'clock tomorrow in the lounge. But obviously, if you want to stay, you're welcome. So if you can just wave if you're wanting to stay, or okay, great. So there's a couple of people who want to stay. Sorry, Tom, you don't get off the hook. And then we also didn't have time to do the demo for the academy, and I think that's going to be this afternoon at 4. Yeah, one today at 4 o'clock and one tomorrow, I think lunchtime. So please feel free to join those. But Tom, if you would take it away. And then just before Tom does it, are there any more questions for the rest of the panel? Otherwise, I'm going to kind of let them move off the stage so that they can also stand up. Any other questions before I leave it to Tom? No? Great. Tom.
I just have to set up the Zoom screen share, so 1 minute. Okay, might use this one. Okay, so this is Postman. It's an application, or for people who are unfamiliar, it's an application for working with HTTP APIs. And I'm going to run through some of the basic operations in the registry API. So the registry API is defined using an open API specification, and in Postman you can actually just import this file using this part here. I've already done that, and you can see each of the operations that are available via the API in this section just here. So if I go to maintainer and get registered maintainers. Okay, so first I have to put in the member account, which is stored in a variable. Let me drop out the parameters and then we send the request. So this has already been configured with the token that was got via my APNIC. And then we can see the registered maintainers for this account. So this is the test my APNIC account, and it has my APNIC AP as the registered maintainer. And the registered maintainers and IRTs are the ones that can be used for WHOIS operations that happen via the API. So in this case, objects that are maintained by my APNIC AP, we can make changes to them. So the next thing we can do is fetch that maintainer via the WHOIS endpoint. So I have to set mem account again. And object type, obviously maintainer. And the maintainer name is my APNIC AP. Okay, so we send that off. And we get back the WHOIS object in JSON format. So you have attributes, and then each entry in the WHOIS object has a name and value. So we see maintainer, description, all the normal fields you see in a WHOIS object. So we'll take those attributes and make an update to the maintainer. So each of because this is using the Open API specification, the body has a sort of template that you can use to make the updates. So take all of that out and then paste the current content in. and then make an update. We have to set the mem account and the object type and ID again. And then we send that off. And the way that all of the create, update, delete operations are handled in the API is that they're asynchronous. So you send off the request and you get back this link to a task, which represents the action that's being performed. And you then poll that task link until you see the completion of whatever was requested. So we send that off. And in the time it took to actually do that, it's already been, the task's already been completed. But you can see the operation that was requested, the request that was made with the updated object details, and the response. So in this case, everything was fine, fairly straightforward change. And it includes a link to the whois object. So you can click that to see the updated whois object as well. There are a number of things you can do in the API apart from just whois updates. The other thing I'm going to show here is route management updates. So go down to route. So this basically maps one-to-one with the route management system in MyAPNIC. So for those of you who've used MyAPNIC or who've used the route management system, it's an abstraction over the underlying whois and RPKI systems so that you can make a sort of abstract declaration about a prefix range and an ASN, and then the appropriate rows and whois route objects will be created. So I'll hide that again. And we fetch the routes and we get back that abstract data. So for example, we have this first route at the top, origin 4608, range and max length, and then the subroutes that are enabled under that. So in this case, it's a /24 prefix with the max length of /25, and the two /25s are enabled. So the /24 actually isn't enabled. So we'll go down the bottom and we'll take this route and submit a deletion for that. With route management, there's a single update endpoint for where you update where you submit rather the creations and the updates and the deletes together. And so there aren't separate endpoints for create and update and delete. And the reason for that is particularly with RPKI, we want that transactional behavior around the updates to ensure that there aren't periods where BGP announcements are treated as RPKI invalid unnecessarily. So for a deletion, all we need is the identifier. So we'll cut this other data out. And set the mem account again. And send it off. Okay. So we get another task, and we'll fetch that. The route management stuff takes a bit longer because each RPKI interaction involves republishing the repository with a new manifest and a new CRL. So compared with whois updates, that can take a little bit longer. But it has completed, so that's good. So the request is just the deletion for that identifier. And then in the response, you can see each of the individual changes that happened. So there was route objects deleted from the whois database, a route deleted from RPKI, and then the final completion message just indicating that everything happened as expected. And that's it. Thank you.
do this from here instead. So just the last note to please acknowledge the team at the back for staying longer. All our AIS people, thank you very, very much for the support team. Thank you for everyone for staying a little bit longer. And Tom, very brave, brilliantly done on that live demo. So that's not anything a lot of people would be doing. So before I let you rush off and get your very much needed coffee, I'm sure, was there any other questions for Tom before you let him out the room? Done. Okay, thank you, everybody. Great job, guys. Thank you.
In the morning, someone new. The things we say we shouldn't do. I wanna wake up in the morning with someone new. It looks like it's a